You can get a citation. You need a pass for that. Sorry.
Start the recording already because we are already wasting topics.
Oi, mate, you got a license for that, mate?
No.
Oh. Well, I don't care anyway. This is Ray Rothingham, the world's least professional podcast on the entire interwebs. I'm your host guy, the Artrix. And we got with us a few co-host people. We got, I'll read them in order. We got a Penboy.
I exist.
Yes, we got SanyaWaffles.
Hi, people.
We got Sekele.
Freaking hope this is already recording.
Yes. No. This is an effective recording. And we got ourselves me, of course. And then there's Xaverius.
Okay. It seemed like you will manage to put it all in alphabetical order, but you fucked up at the end.
No, I was just reading off the list as Discord presents it, not alphabetical.
Yeah,
I didn't say. I
I have some low expectations for you since you are an artist, but even I thought you would know that A is at the start of the alphabet.
I didn't say anything about alphabetical order. Maybe
You said order.
Yeah, I just said order, not alphabetical order.
Look, there are two kinds of orders: alphabetical order and the rule of ecclesiarchy.
But it is alphabetical. Because Artrix is the Artrix.
Okay.
The T.
You are actually right.
I know. I'm always right.
But do you hate it when you're right?
No, I'm deliciously right.
All right, cool. We got well, last week there was no topic because I was in a theme park. It was very fun.
Things actually happened, so he had to hide.
No. There was this.
Exactly what happened.
No. It's the other way around. The entire world realized, oh shit, man! Artrix is having fun in a theme park. Quick, do something! And a whole bunch of stuff happened.
Yes, because of the Artrix being in a theme park, trade sanctions.
Yes.
Border crossings.
Yeah.
People bullying and
Space Marines!
Oh yes.
Everything just happened. Every goddamn conceivable thing.
All happened. It all happened while I was queuing in line for the Vliegende Hollander. It was amazing. Well, for you, I'll translate. It's the Flying Dutchman. It's a Dutchman that flies. Except not really, it's like a dark ride, and you start with a dark ride, and then it becomes a roller coaster, and then comes a water ride. It's a very advanced ride. There isn't quite anything like it.
It's a cart on a set of tracks, isn't it?
Yes, but it's going through a dark ride, and then it's a roller coaster, and then goes through water. So it's kind of nifty.
Cart on a track.
Yes.
That's not special. That's just a roller coaster.
It's no. I mean, yes, throughout the whole ride, it's on some sort of track, but it's very advanced. It has a track.
Does it even swing you around from your neck like that one at Alton Towers?
No. You mean the one where you're basically like Superman, just where you suspend?
Yeah, it just clamps around your face, and you hope you don't break your neck before the end of it.
Actually, that might be new, right? But I do remember Alton Towers having a lot of roller coasters.
Well, yeah. Because that's all anyone wants at amusement parks these days. Yes. Roller coasters in Disneyland.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, this park is almost like the perfect combination of those two, because it's got the theming down very well. Like, I would almost argue that it's better than Disneyland even. And it's also got roller coasters. Including one that has a 90-degree drop. It was very, very nice. But then again, Alton Towers also has one. They might have actually had one of the firsts on the planet. I
haven't been to a theme park like you described since...
The 90s?
When was the 90s again, yeah.
Oh, yeah. The 90s were... it's commonly believed that the 90s were, in fact, in the 90s.
Yes. I went to Disney World in Florida.
Oh, that's very nice.
It was far away. It took like 20 hours to get there.
Just drive up to the theme park, and then you spent then you were there for like an hour, and you were like
shot by alligators.
No,
we did actually see alligators. We had a car accident on the way home, actually. It was very funny because we crashed into a rock on the street and ended up stranded in a town in Florida called Dublin.
Oh yeah, I think you told us about this amazing story.
Yes, yeah. But that's not current news.
That isn't current at all. That was back in the 90s.
It could be if you pretend hard enough.
But what happened this week in the world?
At least 2 things.
This week in stupid.
No, I think that's copyrighted.
Oh,
also, that happened last week, Artrix.
And you're going to have to pay a link tax for that, just for mentioning it.
Yep. Oi, maar je go license for that. I mean, I'm committing copyright infringement just by drawing this character. Even though the creator basically just bought the character off the Unity asset store, like the titular character from his game, like the main protagonists, are just assets he bought from the Unity store. So at least he bought them, so he's got that going for him. But yeah, it's not a very original character design. Do not steal. And here I am drawing it. So essentially, this is my interpretation of a Unity asset store character.
But yes. And apparently the EU really wants everyone to pay for link taxes for everything.
Yes.
I mean, I hadn't read the details on the Article 11 last week, but I have now in the last few minutes.
Yes.
It seems to be stupid. So incredibly stupid.
Well, of course.
Is that the article that you said that it won't do anything the last time, or was that the other article?
The other one was Article 13, which was basically saying the ISPs and web providers would have to be responsible for enforcing copyright when it was reported to them.
Yes.
And that they might have to use AI bots to copyright claim everything on the internet.
Because I was talking about one article, and that was 11, and you thought I was talking about 13. You were like, this won't do anything.
I don't think either of them will do anything because they're both so incredibly retarded. Yeah,
actually, the best way to solve these articles is for sites to just block EU.
I suppose that would work. Never link to anything in Europe again.
Yeah. It's gonna be easier for them if we just cut you off by...
I genuinely still don't think they will do anything. Because I think, regardless of what they're supposed to do, I think the wording in them is too vague and generic and too open to basically say, yes.
That's the whole point.
Yes, it's the European Union. They are trying to cover as much ground as they can so they can control you as much as they can. But at the same time, they are horribly ineffective for doing that. Like, take the GDPR thing, for example, which didn't actually change anything except, giving some money to people. The people who want to trade with data are still doing that.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that now that you have to, have the customers very explicit permission, which they'll have to do anyway if they want to use your services, because.
Exactly.
Actually, there's a bit of a pushback on that in the EU courts. People are saying what did they call it? Coerced consent. Yes, they said coerced consent does not count as consent. It's like, so basically, if you go onto a website, it says you must consent to sharing data to use the site. That doesn't count.
I think they might be on a thin ice here because you know how voting in the EU works. It's like, okay, this didn't pass. You don't like it, you say. Well, we just need to vote again.
Just until we get the result we like.
Yes, exactly. Until you agree. I mean, that seems like a coerced consent to me.
But see, that's the thing. Just like GDPR isn't really working, these new laws won't work either. Because like websites are still saying, yeah, you must consent to use this website, and you're saying, okay, and then you're just getting along with your life.
Yes, and obviously you click on OK, and then you name yourself Skullfucker47, and you continue.
Indeed. Like,
People wonder why the EU loves Islam so much.
like
Islam also doesn't give a damn about consent.
there's a notion that a law that is too vague and unimplementable, it really isn't a law at all, whether you put it in the books or not. It doesn't.
Well,
it
see,
doesn't
that's why
count
they
if you
don't call
can't
them
enforce it.
law. That's why they call them regulations.
Well, that's just works for that too.
It sounds very similar to the law that exists in Scotland or something like that, where it's like if it's year-he, if it's Sunday at between the sunrise and sunset, and when the planets are aligned, and I don't know, some other arbitrary rules, then it is permitted to kill an Englishman because reasons.
No, that sounds, except for the killing part, that sounds very suspicious.
So in other words,
Ramadan.
you got a lot of those kind of laws still on the books, but they're obviously not being enforced. And
I think I read a weird American laws book once where it said that it is only permissible to beat your wife on the steps of the town council building. Everywhere else it's illegal, but if it's in front of town hall, it's okay.
but you see, it's regulated, so it's good.
Spousal abuse, bro.
Yeah, exactly. It's bad in other contexts, but it's, when it's regulated, it's fine then. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I think the notion behind that law when it was first put down was like, you gotta be pretty ballsy to beat your wife out in public in some city hall.
If you're gonna do it, yeah, you gotta be very committed. So no
Then you
pussyfoot.
automatically have witnesses.
So no pussyfooting around. Doing it all stealthy and sneaky. No, you have to do it in front of everyone. So if you're gonna do it, you gotta do it with 1000% conviction, which will also lead to a conviction because you'll be in jail. But at least you weren't pussyfooting around.
Well, you won't be in jail because it's legal.
Yeah, that too.
But everyone will know that you are the arse who walked his wife all the way to the city hall just so he could beat her. Like, just think about that.
Unless of course, here's one fucked up thing. Unless he's really into that. But so you get that. That's similar to that situation with that guy that consented to being eaten. There was this case in Germany, of all places, where this guy was like, you know what? How about I eat you? And the other guy was like, that sounds like a good idea. Let's do it. I consent. You may eat me.
And
So
he
he,
recorded it too.
of course.
It's actually. Don't ask me how I know that. It was on the Lost Media Wiki for some reason.
And Rammstein actually made a song about it.
Of course.
See, I think that would go down under assisted suicide when it came to go to the court.
Yes.
Actually, they went full murder on a retrial.
Oh, really?
If I remember correctly. Yeah, he's serving life in prison in Germany.
Well, yeah. It's murder. I don't think that can be construed as assisted suicide.
If someone goes to you and says, I want you to kill me, and you say, okay, that's assisted suicide.
Yes.
So if someone goes to you, I want you to eat me, which also involves killing me, I don't see how that's not assisted suicide.
That's to be fair. Yeah, that's to be fair. Yeah, that's. So basically, I told my girlfriend, I said, she wants to visit Germany, and I said, if the EU pulls this off and they actually find a way to enforce this, I'm actually never going to go to the EU. She said, not even to Germany with me? I said, I would have to make an exception there, I guess, but, but I honestly just, what are you doing, guys? What the fuck are you doing?
The
Well-
EU is slowly going insane. They want to. They're trying to challenge all of Europe to see how many people will Brexit.
It seems like that, honestly.
Yeah, that's kind of working.
Look at Italy.
Yeah.
It's like Italy, the land that kept accepting immigrants and actually tried to suggest some immigrants to us. And our minister looked at the list and was like, I don't feel like it. None of these people seem trustworthy enough. And then Italy never sent us any lists again.
Quite
Oh, anyway, so populists won in the elections, right? So those evil populists. I looked how evil they are. I looked into the dictionary what the word means. Actually, it means apparently politicians that care about what people think.
Yes.
Imagine those evil, evil bastards. They actually care about the population. What is this? About the fucking peasants.
But
They might even want to, I don't know, let them give their opinion or something.
But we need our technocracy where only small people get to make all the big decisions, because all the citizens are just dumb fucks who don't know shit about anything, which is true to a certain extent. But yeah, this whole top-down approach isn't working either. You need that. Oh, go ahead.
Bring back the Greek lottery.
You know, I hate fake news too, but I don't think this is the way to combat it. And not only that, but it's basically criticism, censoring. That's pretty much as it is.
Yeah, but the thing is,
That's the whole point.
it won't just affect news. It's so incredibly retarded. It's like,
Oh, yes. Look,
Daytime
look,
drama
look,
2 will
look.
no longer be able to be played in the EU. Sorry, guys.
But if they won't control the news, then you might actually go and watch different news that they don't agree with, and get your own opinion that they don't tell you.
well,
I mean-
as I
That
said,
would be terrible, fanboy.
you basically have to go to only illegal websites to get any news,
Oh,
because all the
yes.
legal ones wouldn't be able to afford to link to all the other ones.
I mean, you know how they said it in the Morica. Telling you what to think is their job.
Oh yes, that's right.
Fucking thing.
But yeah, what?
But
Oh,
honestly, looking at how stuff is evolving lately, with America canceling the net neutrality again. I mean, they didn't have it during Bush, and they somehow survived. Then again, like 10 politicians didn't know internet exists, so maybe. Anyway, then you have UK banning porn. Then you have EU doing whatever they are trying to do. It's so vague, we have no idea what actually they are trying to do. We just have this vague notion that it's probably going to be bad.
well, they obviously just.
So
No.
it seems that some 30 years after web exists and 25 years after it's mainstreamly used, the politicians actually found out that internet is a thing and people use it. So they're like, oh no, we should try to control it. We can let people do their own thing.
You know what's kind of funny actually about this article 13 and 11 stuff? For a while I thought it was just random overhyped nonsense, partly because there was this trend on the internet. The only people who were talking about Article 13 and 11 seemed to be right-wing nut jobs.
Right-wing jobs are always right.
Well, the thing is, left-wing net jobs will probably not have an issue with this, right?
Even
But I'm going to just stop you all right there, because left wing and right wing nut jobs alike want to control freedom of speech and expression. They both have their motives to do it. They both have their reasonings to do this.
Mhm.
So this is not a simple issue of
So are you
the
saying
SJWs or
Are you saying fanboys right-wing nut jobs are not actually right-wing nut jobs?
no. I'm not saying they aren't. Well, what I'm saying is the left is probably going, we can use this. Like, think about it. Like that. Like both of them could use this extensively against their opponents.
look, it's the good old shoehorn theory, and the pendulum has swung, and right now it's to the left, and and then later on it's gonna be the. I mean the law that was used to to fine Dankula was one that was drafted up by the conservators. There were with the whole Tony Blair and we need to invade Iraq because they're going to take away our freedoms.
Because it's grossly offensive, Artrix.
Well, that concept wasn't even a thing back then. Like in the early 2000s, we weren't constantly worried about offending people.
Actually, no, you're wrong on that, Artrix.
Oh.
I mean, you're wrong. You're not wrong that it wasn't in popular culture, but it's been on the books in UK censorship laws that things that are grossly offensive cannot be written about, displayed, or sold.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, the specific law under which Dankula was convicted.
If grossly offensive can be displayed, why are they filming politicians?
That is a very good question.
Heck, why do they keep posting about tri-gendered people on the BBC? That's grossly offensive to me. Can they get that shit off?
Look, BBC is not for white people. Fuck off.
But there was always
hashtag not your channel.
There's always been a lot of pushback against the grossly offensive thing because it's such a subjective statement. It's like, what is grossly offensive?
Obviously, and so is the EU's articles. They are very subjective.
Broadly, badly defined laws are the reason why America has failed in a lot of aspects, and now the EU is just picking up where we've left off. I don't want you Europores telling me the US is fucked. At least,
I would tell you that EU was on the way to getting fucked completely apart way before USA started doing it properly.
We're all going pretty deep into totalitarian authoritarian.
Yes, indeed. Look, EU is all about control. As I said before in the chat, EU is absolutely beyond any sort of state that is in it. And what they say, you just do it. Like, there's no voting about it. Like, yes, your pickles are now 5 centimeters long with 25 degrees angle. Do it. And then you do it. There's no questioning that.
I'm not disagreeing that America has its problems. I mean, but there's so many people like, I'm just going to not call them out by name, but there's so many people in the Artrix server and many other servers I'm in basically go, like, they lust about how the EU's so much better, and I'm like, fuck you, it's just it has its own problems.
Have you tried living in the EU?
I don't even want to go there because I went last minute because I'm probably the least PC liberal you all know. It really gets me a lot to get offended.
Look, I'm going to tell you a secret. A secret that many people on the internet don't seem to understand. Actual people who are not on the internet 90% of the time don't shriek like harpies at every little offense.
This is very true. Like
it seems to be people call it Tumblr culture these days, where people just see something and it's like, oh my god, that offends me, take it down, you will be fired.
Fortunes call it Reddit culture.
Oh, that's going to be a segue from what I want to talk about, but go on ahead.
You make a joke about a large dongle on a laptop, that's your career ruined.
Indeed.
Yeah.
That happened. That happened. Someone said, "Oh, lol, look at the size of that dongle," and a woman got offended and had.
Wasn't that like a Python thing?
Yeah, it was like a developer.
It was a conference. They were in a hall, and the guy at this stage was talking about dongles.
And they giggled.
Also, if I were a straight woman, which probably the crux of the problem, the woman was probably not straight, but if I were a straight woman and someone joked about dongles. I would probably find that kind of sexy, like, oh, dongles.
I find dongle just a funny word. It's so hard to get offended at unless you're so brave.
Oh yeah, I would plug his dongle.
But like that kind of nonsense has just increased in frequency and severity since then.
Indeed.
and it's terrifyingly dumb.
Because when people when retarded people see that they can get offended and get away with it, then they get offended. They just take offense.
When they can.
I think it's just a temporary phase, though. I think we'll just go.
I agree with you there, Pam. But I think tides turning.
Will last 100 years.
No, I feel like I agree with you, Panboy. I think the tide's turning. People like me I'm just saying this for the record, I'm a trans woman, and I find a lot of this shit so overblown, and I'm just tired of it. I'm like, just accept me as a human being. I'm not asking for you to censor everything for me.
Okay. You might have a problem there with the whole accept as human being.
Yeah, you're American.
Well, except for that. You might have a problem there. It's called feminism.
Yeah, feminism can go suck my taint. Okay, feminism, rad femmes, and TERFs are the bane of my existence.
Oh my god, stay out of this. You are a fucking double gender traitor. You are trying to infiltrate women. Hey.
Yeah, I get that all the time, and let me be honest, it's it's tiring. It's like, it's so fucking retarded. It's like, what is so sacred about being a woman?
Yeah,
what is
so fun?
You get to push out a unit every 9 months if you're pregnant. Oh my god, you get cramps down there. It's not the work. And what's...
You don't get it! You are defiling the sacred pact of vagina!
Look, guys, I get cramps down there too, but that's a hernia.
It's because, Penboy, you are severely butthurt.
I am. I think it was the dildo I shoved in my arse gave me the hernia, so...
Yeah, okay.
You need smaller dildos, Penboy.
Okay, I gotta admit that one of the biggest gripes I have with what we call the Tumblr culture is people act like that's what us trannies do, and I'm like, I know plenty of people. It's really hard to get offended. It's hard for us to get offended at a lot of this
Could you please understand and accept that you are not an individual? You are part of a Borg hive mind.
Also, I
want you to think.
Also, I find the word of using the word tranny very problematic. I should probably stop doing it.
I got a license. My middle finger is standing up.
Look. From now on, you'll refer to yourself as a transformer sexual, okay?
Look, very important. How many pronouns do we have to use at once every time we address you? Like 12, 13?
Just she, her, hers, depending on the context. I'm not one of the. I'm not a too cute. They have a new one. This is something that I've seen, and I can't tell if it's ironic or not. It's called recurgender. It's basically when you're cis, but you refuse to identify as such.
Did you say Reaper gender?
Recurgender.
Oh. I like.
I have a new term. No, guys. We have a term for this already. It's called mental retardation.
Reaper gender. Die, gender norms.
That's the first thing I imagine when I hear it.
So fuck yeah.
So, when you said it, I thought you said like recursive gender. And all I imagine yes, I know. But when you said it, I thought you said like recursive gender, like Reeker, and I just imagined like how Alien has mouths. I just imagined dicks like that.
It's just a swirl. It's just
a dick in a dick in a dick.
That's recursive dick. That's a recursive gender. It's just basically a circle with a little arrow going through it because it's just going around and around in a loop.
I hate
round and round and round. Talking about retarded people. The SCP wiki.
Oh yeah.
Oh, beautiful.
I keep reading it. Well,
you shouldn't.
Well, I look, Fanboy. I started when it wasn't retarded. Okay, so somebody made an article, a joke article, not even a serious article, about a doorknob that really wants it. It's a very sexy doorknob, because it's an anomaly, and for some reason this doorknob just makes everyone think sexually about it.
Oh yeah.
And there's been such a shitstorm in the comments.
You
That
you
sounds like Event Horizon
It's
shit
basically
there.
like stop objectifying this object.
But you can't see it on the cam, but I'm incredibly hard right now because that's so sexy. Like,
I know, right?
yes,
little
that
fucking
door.
dog
Oh
was
yeah.
responsive.
I can't comprehend how someone on a horror website can get so offended by a doorknob.
Especially since it's a horror website funded by 4chan. I mean, I knew about these things except for the 4chan part because
I think
did not do the
SCP has been the latest culture to be appropriated
indeed.
by people who are against cultural appropriation. Ironically,
It's ironic. Also, the people who didn't want to see that, including that giant banner of rainbow at the header of the site. Obviously, including brown and black because those are genders.
Yes.
Yeah,
You know-
people just got pissed
my
off
God.
and made their own SCP wiki. It's called RPC,
What?
I think.
Wait. They were offended at a rainbow. How fucking sad. Like, it ain't that bad.
More like they were offended at the people who put rainbow there, because you make a joke, not even about the doorknob, just make a joke that somebody doesn't like it, and then you get banned.
Oh, okay, I see.
it's
I think the best part is that it used to be a. Oh, actually, Jim made a video about this. There was a great article about some satellites that think they are trans women and watch Steven Universe, and somehow that passed as an actual article that's on the site and you can read it. In any
So
case,
Let's retard.
someone was kind of against this obvious new level of retardation, and those comments could be because they were too offensive.
you're basically saying the SCP wiki has become like a totalitarian hug box, where
It
if
is.
you don't agree with the norm, you get banned.
Yep,
Yeah.
isn't that fun?
Can I just comment on the doorknob SCP
It's
itself?
going to get worse from now on.
Go ahead.
I want to comment on the SCP doorknob thing. That sounds like some Event Horizon shit. You all seen the movie Event Horizon? Okay, you are
no.
comprehending this abomination. That all it is, it's a doorknob that makes you horny. By merely thinking of it, you get a boner 5 miles long.
Exactly. I mean,
Even
that's
for-
how
even for a cis
SCPs
woman.
work.
It's just amazing. I love that. It's just I'm picturing a horror movie now where it takes place on a spaceship and it has a lone door with a doorknob on it, and everyone gets possessed by it.
You just go into the room and it's like, wow, I'm super horny. The only thing in this room that I can possibly get off with is this lovely, sleek, round, polished.
Yeah, and this is a joke SCP. Like the site has some really amazing concepts. In any case, yeah, better not comment. And when somebody, well, the guy whose comments were mysteriously disappeared. Well, actually not mysteriously. He was visited by a moderator and be like, "You bad, we did it now. Don't do that again." And yeah, the author basically came to the comments and were like, "Fuck off, nigger." Well, obviously not nigger because that would be offensive, but the gist of it, the fucking off, was present. And I just find it funny because when the site started, or its earlier years, it was considered a bad etiquette for an author to comment under their article.
But it's not
No.
now.
Apparently, it's not. Oh, and obviously all those evil, disgusting fortune people who created the fucking site were purged
Of
because
course.
they have the wrong opinions.
The
I am
creative talent
I
that
think-
created the creative site all get
Yes.
deleted.
Yes, exactly. Well, unless they like shut up and fall in line. I think that might be the reason why the new site came into existence.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, a lot of the splintering happens when you get these fucking identity politics people and all that other stuff, and you know, just it's retarded. I can't, you know, I can't get why. Like, I know there are parts and people within 4chan, right, that are horrible. But I could say the same about any other goddamn website. Just because you come from this website or that website doesn't automatically make you a good person or a horrible person.
The main difference between a site like 4chan and most other communities is that it's anonymous. So
And on
So when
principle, they refuse to enforce such laws and rules.
Mm.
Like the entire principle of 4chan is if you get offended, you get banned.
Pretty much, yes.
Yes. Also, the best part is
Problem. You know what's the problem?
you.
And yes, the problem is the moderate silent majority, or rather the fact that the majority is silent. Psychos are only the minority, but they are the loudest ones, and therefore their voices get heard, and therefore they get their way, always, forever.
That's usually how it goes. And it's not just, limited to websites, it's life in general.
Okay. I need to add one thing, a new thing, a door dump, which certain people didn't get me finished because they could check.
Same
I had a
thing.
problem.
Just
Anyway, no you. Okay, the door dump article. So after this video was starting making rounds and everything, you know what happened? You wouldn't know what happened, right?
No, I don't care.
Well, the article was edited. It's pure now. It has been cleansed of the filth. So the entire gist of the article is that it's a bland doorknob, and everybody's comments on it is it's a doorknob.
Retarded.
That
Sounds...
sounds so fucking boring.
And apparently that's the punchline. It's now a boring SCP. Wow.
The joke is that the doorknob is very boring, yet everyone is just inexplicably...
How the entire world will look like in a few years.
The SCP, the original SCP wiki. This is where all this totalitarian bullshit's going on, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you need to could someone send me the new version of the new branch of the wiki? The one, because I want to be able to distinguish between the two.
Oh yeah, well, it's very easy. I forgot it. It's RPC Authority. That's the new one.
RPC?
Yes, but and they changed the design. They actually have their own icons now. Nice. So I must warn you, some of these articles don't pass any quality standards, it seems.
Alright, so RPC...
some of them are interesting. It kind of evokes the feel of the original articles of SCP Wiki, with the kind of short format and not that much info to go on, because, it became accustomed that they were an article and they make 65,000 logs, so you knew absolutely every detail about the anomaly. In this one, it's more like it's shorter, and in the good ones, it's that better, and the bad ones are just bad. Oh, and they keep adding articles, nice.
Well,
Yeah, I can't find it. I'll have to.
Okay, it's actually. Wait, where are you? Where is this retarded program?
Found it.
Sekele is very quick. Anyway, yes. So there's this branch. Somebody, when I googled it, I don't know if I can still find the topic. Somebody asked about it.
Oh, YouTube linked it. Sorry, thank you.
Yes,
my internet being
yes.
slow.
Here it is. Somebody made a topic about the RPC Authority website, and it's like, hey, what are the general thoughts on this site? Just curious. And then the comment under that, well, the first one is, do they have hookers and blackjack? That's nice joking. Innocent, good. Or also they... Yes. Here it is. The second main branch comment under this topic is, don't bother with the site, don't draw attention to it, never worth it. Obviously the response to this comment was, yeah, it seems just the thing I'd expected an admin to say.
You know, I could see the original SCP wiki basically going from the Creative Commons, just basically to be like, no, you can't use our stuff anymore. You know, and you know, because sort of like what TV Tropes has done.
Wait, what has TV Tropes done?
Well, I remember they've become very authoritarian over the past couple years.
So
That's like that's for a different. I'll have to do more research on it because it's a deep rabbit hole. But right, you know, it's not the main subject I want to talk about today. So I'll save that for another day when I'm better prepared.
alrighty, but
Prepared.
what's this?
What is this preparation you refer to?
I have no idea. Oh, I wanted to finish a thought. I had a
All right.
thought.
Okay.
Oh, go ahead.
And back in the days when we were talking about the articles, you know, when I said that the politicians 30 years after web was created find out that it exists, and since EU is all about control, they want to control it. Wow, that just like, you know, they finally noticed even these old, past expiration date in some cases, people finally notice internet exists. Isn't that glorious? I mean, look at the people in European Commission. They seem like if you, I don't know, if you throw them a ball and they try to catch it, it feels like they're going to fall apart. Just sudden movements are not good for them.
I think I'm gonna get in my car and drive down to where are they now, Strasbourg or Brussels. I mean, it changes every 3 months, weeks even.
Changes with everyone.
And just play a friendly game of you know, catch ball. Hey, Commissioner.
Yes, but then they fall apart, Artrix, and then they'll have to send their minions to put them back together.
Oh.
That's the whole point. The point is that they fall apart so badly that no one can put them back together.
That might work. I mean, I don't know about them, but pretty sure that Soros is a lich.
He looks like a very interesting person to converse with.
Well,
he's very young and hip, certainly. Like, he's definitely with the times. You just look at
Artrix. He's been with the times for the past 200 years.
exactly. So I can ask him about, I don't know, the Great War. You know, because he probably remembers a time when it was actually the Great War, not just World War I.
Do you think he noticed the second one?
He probably not. He was probably just having a big nap. And, you know, he woke up and was like, what's this all about? I didn't remember anything. Sir, we just fought, it was arguably the largest military conflict in history. Wake me up in another 50 years, okay? And then he went back to sleep.
Yes. And then he decided to troll Hungary.
Yeah.
Buying of some universities. And Hungary is like, no, fuck off. And that's kind of the best part about EU. While nothing can be debated, you can still refuse to do it. And then they are like, well, you'll have to pay us money. We need to fine you. And you can still do no. What are you going to do? Kick us out? Because we are going to do it anyway if you threaten us like this.
At this rate, they will.
Yes. You can go the Poland route, and when they ask you for fines, you go like, well, we also need like 5 billion in reparations. Because we are the sole victim of Holocaust.
Oh yeah, it was just Poland, no one else.
So Poland is best. Yes, look, Poland is the greatest hero nation of World War II as well as the biggest victim.
Obviously.
Yes, they just could do both things at the same time.
I mean, they're
Anyhow,
fucking...
you know what else happened?
What else happened?
The EEE conference.
The Triple E.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
And apparently it's been a giant win for feminism. You know why? You know why, Artrix?
Because there's more women in gaming now.
Yes, there were girls kissing on the screen in the game, Artrix.
But here's the thing. Apparently there's been a major victory for feminism in gaming for the past 5 years or so. Especially after the whole Gamergate thing, you know, A3 roll along and all the journalists like, Zonk! There are so many women in gaming. This never happened before. And then everyone just points to all the games.
Except you know what also happened? During
What else?
the same E3, your friend Anita Sarkeesian made a chart and said that no, there are not enough women in the games in this year's E3, and it is a big problem, and it is a continuation of oppression.
And obviously, when you say she made a chart, you actually mean she made a chart. She took a napkin and drew a chart on it, and it was it. That was the research. The research was to find out where the restaurant has napkins, so she can do it.
Which also means that in order to debunk it, all you need to do is to think for more than 0.2 seconds.
Well, you need to take another napkin and draw your own graph out.
I gotta point out something. The fact that Anita just keeps trying to be relevant is just...
But that's it, she's not.
Retarded.
I think it's cute. Like, feminist frequency is down to 10% of views.
Yeah, that's the thing. She isn't relevant anymore.
Exactly. At this point, they are only allowing her, well, basically as a, like, pity. What's it called?
Like Xaverius said, her viewership has plummeted. Like, virtually no one is watching her stuff anymore.
Her being at E3 is the conference equivalent of pity fuck. That's what I'm trying to say.
I think I know one of the big things that caused her to plummet outside her just being an incompetent weed.
She shat all over the people who gave her money.
Yes, she also doxed a trans journalist who had the audacity to speak out against her for some reason.
Well, if you have wrong ideas, you get coming into you.
Wait, Anita doxed a tranny? What?
Anita doxed a trans journalist. It was so bad, even Total Biscuit commented on it and basically said, I can't ignore this anymore. You're a bully, Anita. I'd have to do some digging to find the tweet. I hope it's still there.
But Anita said that, look, Anita said that bullies are the people in the audience.
She's also one of these people who basically, you have to believe her or else she doesn't, in total, blindly, no.
Also listen, don't forget the listening part.
So yeah, the whole listening belief thing.
I was, like, even when I briefly was, like, interested in her videos, something struck me as not genuine about her. Something, so even then I knew
maybe
it was
reading from the teleprompter.
I just couldn't place my finger on it, but now I can. She's a charlatan and a bully, and she's the problem I have. She's one of the problems I have with feminism as a whole.
Yeah, maybe it was the part when she was like, Hitman is a game where gamers get pleasure from beating up women.
What are you talking about? I had great pleasure beating all the women in Hitman.
My favorite was the bit where she said that when she was talking about Days X, saying that men were supposed to get a rape fantasy from stabbing women in the back with the knife stabby arms.
As she obviously knows nothing about game design or people like me, basically into game design. Although I'm just an amateur, but I still go as like. I have so many females in daytime drama too, and she probably, even if it were a completely 100% original game on E3, she'd probably still go, it's not enough. It's like, what do you want from me, you cretin?
You don't have enough black trans midgets.
Look,
No, she would dox them.
She honestly, she doesn't know what she wants. Like she, that game she proposed basically violated half of the rules she made up in the women, the tropes versus women thing.
Yeah.
It was like,
that's the point. The point is that there will always be something to complain about.
Moving the goalposts.
In her case, it was, well, she's incompetent.
It's like she's like, okay, here's a game where you're a strong female character who don't need no man and beats her way out of this prison in exactly the same way as a male character would. I was like, but in one of her previous videos, she's like, oh, but female characters in games are just basically reskinned men.
And let's mention the fact that you steal an armor from a male guard, and then you have perfectly defined boobs in that her proposition of the game. How does that happen?
Because video games.
Yes, well, I'm very sure she didn't ever criticize that in video games, right?
I think the most hilarious thing is she praised the game for having a strong female character when it had so little graphical definition. There was no possible way you could identify whether the character had sex or not.
That pixely game of one of her friends, right?
Oh yeah, that was I remember that game. It was like well, it was the very typical hipster pixel art game.
Well, the important part was that it was somebody she knew.
That
this was in contact with over the internet. Anyway, we looked and laughed at the circus curiosity, at the one-eyed freak with a hump. But back to E3. Yes, so apparently it was a victory because there were two girls at the screen and they were kissing. It was Last of Us 2, by the way. They kind of lost Joel. I guess he was too masculine. Anyway, so that was a great victory that showed up the toxic male gamers. What's what? I'm not entirely sure they get the gist because, you know, if you have toxic male gamers, wouldn't two girls kissing on the screen be pandering to the male gaze? Because I want as many girls kissing on my video game screens as possible.
There's definitely a whole lot of men that are into that.
If anything, I'm pretty sure that two is not enough. But it's okay, one of them is ugly.
Can I just level with you here and just basically say I think the biggest problem with all this is you're never going to be able to win with these people. It's impossible.
Obviously not.
Well,
that's why you laugh at them.
That
be like, no.
That's rule number one of designing anything on the planet ever. You can't please everyone. If you ever go into trying to design a franchise of any kind with the objective that everyone will like it will come out pleasing no one.
Now that you have strong women and everything, we don't have enough black people.
Look.
That's
honestly. Really, the biggest problem with E3 this year was the lack of diversity in the Command and Conquer game they shat on. They just continue to shit on Command and Conquer.
Did you just say that the new Command and Conquer is a game, Penboy?
So what you're saying?
It's the biggest load of shit I've ever seen
Okay, if you don't know what Penboy is talking about, it's a grave insult to our culture. Our ancestors are rotating in their graves right now.
By ancestors, you mean people that are alive right now, like me?
Yes, me too. I am turning in my grave right now. And so is Command and Conquer, because the new game in the series is on mobile, so it's not a game.
And even if as much as I hate mobile games, there is a very slim possibility that a developer can just about manage to make a phone create something that resembles an enjoyable experience.
I mean, that's how Switch came into existence.
But this wasn't that. Imagine a game of like there's a little RTS, or no, it's a turn-based strategy on the Nintendo DS called Advance Wars. Which was popular for a while. It uses interest. It's basically a clone of an ancient game called Zed, which was.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
It's so ancient that Artrix remembers.
I even have a physical copy of it. Let me grab it.
The one game Artrix played.
No.
So imagine you take the concept of Zed and Advance Wars. You put a Command and Conquer skin on it. But then you take all the things that made Red and Advance Wars
And
good,
broke.
get rid of them, and shit all over them, and limit the battlescape to like 10 tiles, and make the objective to be in the middle, and also make it pay to win. I think you can buy units.
Oh, it's a mobile game. What would you
Yeah.
expect? This is much
No,
worse than that time somebody decided that Command and Conquer is gonna be a 3D shooter.
No, I liked that game actually. I
Yeah,
liked Renegade.
it was a nice arena thingy. and you could
Apparently,
blow up people.
apparently, Reganade was renovation was a very decent game, even though
It was a
actually
fail,
quite
but a good fail.
it was a fail, but a good fail. Like it had some interesting concepts. It was
You could actually play
surprisingly.
it. Let's,
it was
let's put it that way.
It was
You could play it and have fun.
It was surprisingly good.
It was like a stupid spin-off, but they tried to make it the main game, so it failed. But
It was
a
fun,
fun
though.
game.
But the Renegade, even at launch, had a really bizarre problem that they never even tried to fix in a patch, where the speed your cursor moved across the screen was very irregular. No, it wasn't irregular. It was very regular, but it skipped pixels, lots of them. So you'd have to, if you wanted to aim accurately, you had to set your mouse sensitivity to like a tiny number and use your entire mouse pad. And I'm talking about in the 90s when people only had mice of like 300 DPI, and you still because if you set your sensitivity above 1, your crosshair would just skip across enemies.
Or worse, if that like those old-fashioned mice with the balls in them.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Even with a ball mouse,
yeah.
if you want a mouse that slow, you move the mouse one tick, and your cursor goes from the left of the enemy's head to the right of the enemy's head, and you need it to be in between those two places to shoot him. Because unlike Overwatch, your bullets go where you're aiming, even if the aiming is shit. So
Oh no. A skill-based game. We can't have that in this day and age.
no, you can't. You have to play Overwatch.
At least
Press your ulti and win.
At least it's apparently Fortnite is even worse, where it's like you aim at someone and some RNG decides whether you hit or miss.
Oh god, you know what's depressing? I'm
Sounds like
having,
more of it.
I'm
Of course.
having more fun thinking about the flaws of Renegade than I did watching the entire E3 presentation of Command and Conquer
Well,
Mobile.
let's say something.
I didn't know they could shit on the franchise worse than what they did with Tiberium Alliances. I didn't
Well,
know.
they are full of surprises, fanboy.
EA are not just beating a dead horse. They have resurrected the horse, murdered it, and then resumed beating it.
Also, they skinned it and put the skin on a completely different horse.
Also
That was also dead.
the actual presentation was pretty cringy, and I use that word not very lightly. It was legit cringe.
Wow, the old legal presentation was, well, okay, beyond good and evil, and obviously Devolver, because Devolver has the best, most objective presentation.
So have you actually seen any in-game footage from Beyond Good and Evil 2? Because so far I've seen a lot of impressive looking cinematics.
That
So
was a
I'm
bit
like,
at the end.
so it was almost like I was watching the trailer for a movie, but
That was a bit at the end, though it was mostly what we already seen.
yes.
Because there was in-game footage after the first player. And
Wasn't-
it just looked very similar.
Wasn't that the bit where Jade was jumping through all the buildings and shit?
No. That was
Oh.
the first Beyond Good and Evil 2. That
Okay.
one doesn't exist anymore.
Oh, okay.
I meant the
That's
one
just-
where the monkey is jumping and flying.
Okay.
And now there was the black person jumping and flying.
Mm.
Very
Okay.
What also happened, and that was very amusing, there was a samurai game where you have a sword and you restructure enemies with the sword.
Mm-hmm. As you do.
and they had a guy come onto the stage in some sort of Chinese costume and play on a special bamboo flute or something.
Oh yeah, I heard about this.
And then everybody was offended that they didn't get a Chinese person or a Japanese person or whatever. They're like, really? It's just a bamboo stick. Why don't you get a person that's of the correct ethnic origin to play this bamboo stick? Well, turns out that the bamboo stick is a very specialized instrument that only like a dozen people in the world truly mastered, and they are really fucking difficult and expensive to get. So they got one that agreed to actually go there.
And he just happened to be white, which is obviously a sin.
Only white people can't do anything. We all know this.
Well, you know, it's cultural appropriation. It's cultural appropriation if you celebrate somebody else's culture by practicing it. It's not cultural appropriation if you invade a culture and change it to your whims.
Well, no, because you are forcing your culture upon them. You are not taking from their culture. See?
Oh yeah, you're right.
Completely different.
Hang on a minute. Feminists are colonialists.
Yes, they are. Someone finally gets it.
And what's worse, they keep appropriating our culture.
With their colonial tactics.
Exactly.
They came into D&D and took our boobs.
I mean, you sometimes read an article, and the article is like, okay, this is a problem. You are the problem. Actually, the fans are the problem. And then the writer of the article does a reference. That reference is the subject matter, like Star Wars or video games. And it's like, hello, fellow gamers and Star Wars watchers. I'm one of you, and you are the problem.
You know, it's like the teacher who takes the chair, put it backwards, and then he's like, "Yo, kids, I'm your teacher, yo. You can trust me. I'm hip and cool."
Actually, I saw such an article recently. It was about Star Wars. That's why I mentioned that. It was obviously the fans of Star Wars are the problem, right? Not the movies.
The fact that the new Star Wars is garbage.
Oh
No, that's not a problem. That's just you not appreciating it correctly. Come on. Yes. So the writer went something like the response of the fan base was as torn as Anakin Skywalker's character. Oh my God! You see that? He knows the movie. He saw them. He's the biggest fan ever. He's an authority on this subject. We should trust him on this.
But you know what the greatest thing about that is? Because Solo was such a huge success.
It was.
They've frozen all production on spin-off movies.
Yes, it's the greatest.
Yes!
Well, someone's getting an orgasm.
They're like, oh, hang on a minute. There's something slightly off about these movies we're making. People don't seem to be very excited for them.
You know, but what? It was actually a bit. It's always the spin-offs, because before it was Rogue One. You know how suspiciously bland the movie that was? It was because they had to reshoot it because they were not sure about all those strong women parts, so they decided to cut them.
What, really?
Yep. That's why it was a bit more expensive and had to do some reshoots, and why the main character was like not doing anything that much.
Oh.
But yeah,
I'm just pissed off that they stole the name because, you know, she's Jyn Erso and there was a Jen Ors in Jedi Knight, and she was like 75 times better than this lady.
I reckon a lot of people are just getting burned out on Star Wars at this point.
You don't say. Artrix, are you implying that a movie series that churns out a new movie every 11 months could cause people to get burned out?
Exactly.
Like, it's never happened before, not even in gaming with certain series about assassins.
No, you can't say that. It's not Star Wars burnout. If movie burnout was as big of a thing, Avengers would have burned out like 6 movies ago.
So are you saying it's stupid, unfun movies burnout?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm saying.
At least Avengers are stupid, fun movies.
it's not just the frequency, it's the fact that they're just running out of material. Like, the Last Jedi felt like nothing was going on the whole movie.
Look, I'm pretty sure they ran out of material somewhere in the middle of the Clone Wars.
That's probably because nothing happened in The Last Jedi. Let's see. What was that movie about? You had a fleet of ships going from A to B.
Pretty much it.
Yeah.
And they went to the wrong B and almost all exploded.
So for basically the entire movie, there was this small fleet of ships being shot at by a really big ship, which didn't do anything until the last 5 minutes of the movie.
And their strategy in that fight was basically, let's get shot at a bit more.
Yes, that was a really bad strategy, and I can't imagine why anyone would choose to do that. That was awful. That was dumb. It's like,
And like, people could talk about the women characters being shallow and all that. I'm not going to do that. Just the movie in and of itself was just...
I'm not gonna say that the general was a shallow character. I'm just gonna say she was completely retarded.
No, like, just hear me out, right?
You know those droids from the original movies, like those are just big metal boxes with two legs. That would make a better commander than the lady.
Just hear me out, right? I'm not going to target the women mainly because people are going to go, well, that's a cop-out.
No, I'm going to target
I will target everything.
character.
Yeah, I'm going to target everything else, and the movie was boring from A to Z. It felt like nothing happened outside towards the end. As I said, the bulk of the movie could have, like, you could have basically condensed basically the first 4/5 of the movie into 30 minutes. And it would have been slightly more bearable.
Yes.
You know?
We need to do
my big
evasive
problem with
maneuvers. No.
and I really hated the lightsaber fight near the end with Rey and Kylo fighting off all the red guys, because it was just bad. Nobody looked like they were swinging their swords at anybody. They were just like dancing.
Plus, as we know from previous movies, Jedi with a sword versus somebody with a laser is not a fair fight.
But it was like, okay, in the original trilogy, the sword combat was a bit. It was well, what's the word? It was a bit more. It was very mundane.
Yes.
It was ordinary. It was people running at each other with swords and trying to hit each other.
And
But
it was, fanboy, it was more substantial. When it happened for a reason.
Yeah, and it looked like people trying to hit each other with swords.
Yeah, then you had prequels and the guys were just jumping around and rotating in 6 directions.
But you see, there was so much stuff going on the screen all at once. The scenes are so dense.
Okay, but I'll be honest. The prequels, the sword combat was silly, over the top, mad, aggressive, but it was fun. And
okay, it was flashy. It was there, so you have some fucking laser swords.
And it did kind of look like people trying to hit each other with swords. And then you had the new that particular fight, just that one in particular, near the end of the last year. It was just bad. The choreography was bad. It didn't look entertaining. There was a bit where Kylo rams the sword into the ground for no evident reason. I mean, he just shoved it into the ground. I think the idea was supposed to be he shoved it into the ground to block a blow from someone else, but nobody swung at him. So he just rams his sword into it. It's like, what? Why?
Also, that's the whole thing that basically until she met Luke, Rey was technically unable to use a laser sword. Also Finn can use a lightsaber for some reason.
Also, you guys keep going. I'll grab a beer. I'll be back in a few seconds.
You know that canonically when somebody who doesn't know how to lightsaber tries to use a lightsaber, they usually end up without some extremities.
Yeah, it's because they're rather dangerous.
Use one.
Who?
Grievous.
Yes, but he was an android. He had it computed.
Was he though? Wasn't he supposed to be some kind of guided armor? I thought he had flashy bits under.
Well, he had. That's why he was an android.
That would make
He
him
was okay. Cyborg. Yes, that's the word I was looking for. He was a brain and a few tissues in a box.
Yes. And then they were like, this guy's too hard to animate. We don't. So
Yes. We better kill him quick.
yeah, let's just have him break down in the cartoon, so we don't have to worry about him in the movie.
And it's like, hey Obi-Wan, wanna see my heart? Boom.
That
was
was
convenient.
that was certainly one of the problems of the prequels, where they were like, I remember seeing that movie, and it started, they introduced the character and was like, they seem to be pretending like I know who he is, but I have no fucking clue who this guy is. Like, who the fuck are you, and why should I care?
Should I know you? Did we meet before?
Yeah, it's like, oh hi, by the way, this character that you are intimately familiar with, he's here. I'm like, no, I don't know him. I watched all the Star Wars movies. I have no fucking clue who he is.
No, not to watch the cartoon.
But he has 4 lightsabers. 4.
Oh yeah, that automatically makes it very cool.
That's twice the lightsaber. that's 2 more lightsabers on the screen at any given time.
Also, I'm culturally appropriating Penboy's culture by drinking Guinness.
Oi mate, do you have a license for that?
Just pour it properly.
Kind
When it comes
I
to
guess.
lightsaber fights, my favorite one is the one with Luke and Darth Vader in episode 5, when they're fighting around the cryo chamber. Because
Yeah.
you can see every move, and they are there for a reason.
And Luke just ends up wailing on him.
Oh yeah, because Luke is a fucking greenhorn, even though he got some training from Yoda that did not involve lightsabers actually.
Well, at least I am letting it sit on the desk for a minute before I actually drink it.
They intended for Darth Vader to move really like heavily, slowly, and menacingly. He just takes everything in stride and does calculated moves. Basically throwing Luke around while Luke is just trying to block and jump a bit out of reach of the saber, and then he falls into the hole.
And loses a hand. Or was that in the first one?
That was in the 5th one, indeed. Yeah, correct.
We're losing track of all the things. Anyway,
No,
I think
we are talking about the hands. Those are important part of Star Wars. Did anyone get a hand chopped off in the new ones yet?
not that I know of.
No, see,
Oh, I forgot that they are trying to do away with all the old, literally.
and also Rey is a girl, which means
This is very important.
they can't injure her at all.
That's true. You know, some of the characters in the movie are absolutely useless. Like Snoke, the guy in the golden bathrobe. What is he there for? He's like, he's just sitting there and then gets tricked by one of the basicest tricks that exist.
I think someone said, one of the people defending Star Wars on their media is like, that was the point. Snoke wasn't important, so we just killed him.
But Snoke was like the leader of the First Order, which inexplicably resurrected the Empire. Just can't have been nobody.
But he was, apparently. He was nobody.
Oh well. Then again, I mean, they explicitly said it in that scene, right? The old must die or something around those lines.
The old must die. Kill it if you have to.
Yes. So they killed Han. They killed Luke. Well, he stopped existing, I guess. And then there was the scene where Leia gets sucked into space, and they're like, "Oh well, another dead old character." And then she does a magic, and suddenly she survived vacuum.
Honestly, the stupidest thing in the movie must have been when Luke tried to kill Kylo in his sleep.
Oh,
I mean, that's what happened. That's what Luke went through.
That just goes completely against everything that Luke ever stood for. But don't worry, that's completely normal.
And then later in the movie, Luke's like, "Oh, that's not how. I totally went into that tent to kill him, but I changed my mind."
I mean, look, the guy who, when he had doubts, he just went and did what his gut told him to save his friends, instead of doing Jedi stuff and being rigidly Jedi-ish. Just no. that there must be a reasonable way of good heart by Yoda. And now he's just like, yeah, I'm gonna kill him.
So daft. So
That's
incredible.
what good people do, right?
Yeah, they go into people's tents in the dead of night and threaten them with fatal force.
Yes.
Anyway.
That's probably why there are no Jedis. Luke just kills them all.
As your resident host, I'm going to usher in the new topic, as suggested by our own SanyaWaffles.
Oh, I forgot about one thing from the E3.
Okay, keep it short.
Okay, you know that there's a new Devil May Cry. I don't know if it's gonna finally cry or not. And even I, who never played the games, just read a few reviews. I know there are two guys. Look, yes, there's Nero. He has short white hair and a mechanical arm, and well, that's also magic. And then there's Dante, and he has slightly longer white hair and no mechanical arm. And there was an article on some site that I forget, when the journalist was like, okay, so Dante's back and he has some sort of weird mechanical arm. There might be a few problems with it, like you fucking not knowing the characters of the series you write about. I really don't know what the journalists are doing. Do they just pick random people from the grocery store?
Well, they are games journalists.
Journalists still think that the guy in green in The Legend of Zelda is called Zelda.
He's not.
I'm pretty sure that's limited to like a few.
I mean, at least I would like to think that this is similar to the God of War must be mature because it was not mature before, right? I think it's similar in the respect that the journalists, when those original games came out, they were like 13 and their moms forbade them from playing those violent games.
Anyway,
because that's the only reasonable explanation that keeps my sanity intact.
Senya, go ahead.
Do a topic.
Alright. So, there's this artist on Tumblr who is from Saudi Arabia. They got doxxed by someone after making a comic portraying how it is to be LGBT in Saudi Arabia. A lot of SJWs got pissed off, and so did some conservatives. And a conservative troll, I don't know who the troll is. I actually have their information, but I'm not going to reveal it because they were. Here's the thing, right? This conservative troll doxed this person, this gay artist from Saudi Arabia, and now their life is in danger. So they tried to commit suicide because they were afraid of fearing the government. Yes, they survived. They survived, fortunately, and there's no massive organ failure. So they're going to try to make their way to the United States or some other place.
That's nice.
Right?
There's no massive organ failure. That sounds good.
I said there is no massive organ failure.
Yes, exactly. That sounds good. There's only minor organ failure, right?
Yeah, just... Okay, there is some damage, but they can recover from it, right? Anyway, here's the kicker, right? Although it was a conservative troll who did dox this person, not only before this, a lot of, like, SJWs were getting angry at the comic for portraying Muslims as this hateful group. And racism, you know how it is. But then here's the kicker, right? Now that it has come out that this artist may have drawn Undertale fan art of Frisk aged up with Sans, that somehow justifies, or at least low-key justifies, what they're going through.
To be fair, if you draw any kind of Undertale fan art, you deserve to get shot.
But seriously here, this is not something I condone, obviously. I don't condone doxing. This person who did the doxing got doxed in return. But here's the kicker, right? This is what really gets me. The fact that all the people that are supposed to be this guy's advocate are now basically saying he deserves some sort of karmatic justice for a fucking drawing.
It's because...
Well, Here's one thing about the doxing. Doxing is like the math equivalent to like the internet. So it's basically like if you nuke me, I'll nuke you.
Yeah,
That kind of happened
I saw this
here.
coming. I saw this coming. As I said, I actually have the guy's information. I just haven't looked at it and I don't want to. I'm not going to. It's not. I got it from someone. That's all I can say. I did not get it from. I'm not going to say who. I'm not going to say why. All I did was ask, yeah, is this true this guy got doxxed? And yes, he did get doxxed in return.
It's one of those unwritten rules of the internet. You don't go around sharing personally identifiable information to the rest of the planet.
Well, that's why it's such a weapon, obviously.
Yes.
But
Well, it's especially a weapon with the Saudi government could potentially kill this guy.
The thing is,
these people refuse to believe that it's that bad in Arab countries.
I personally think that they do know exactly how bad it is.
Yes. But the liberals that are supposed to be backing this guy up are now saying, well, you low-key kind of deserve it because you drew Frisk with Sans, even though she was an adult when you drew, in the slot you drew her. That somehow justifies it! How does that justify it? I'm sorry, it's just not
anyway.
well,
That's
here's
just liberals.
There are two other options. Either they know exactly how terrible it is in Arab countries and are like, yes, we should be nice to them so they don't throw us off the buildings. Or
there's
they have no fucking idea.
There's absolutely nothing liberal about this kind of behavior. Liberal is supposed to be about freedom of expression, freedom of identity, freedom of self. It's not
I agree.
like
That-
we're
that-
liberals. Everyone in this goddamn
Yes.
channel is a liberal. So please stop saying that it's fucking liberals.
But here's the thing: these people call themselves that. They're making anyone who looks like a classical liberal look like a retard.
Then why it is liberty. It's selective and enforced liberty, but it is liberty, and you are going to be liberated if you wish it or not.
No, that's the opposite of liberal.
that's the whole reason why we had to invent the phrase classical liberal to
You
differentiate
think that liberty is democracy?
to differentiate ourselves from regressive leftists who claim to be liberal.
They call them regressive because
Yes, it's
I'm
like but now we kind of figured out how to run a society, be accepting and whatnot, and freedom of speech and all that, and they kind of
There's
regress.
just one guy with the fucking hipster hairstyle in the corner who's just like Lenin did it better.
So we should actually do away with all of that, and let's regress because it's better, but we call it progressive.
I know what Panboy is getting at, right? We shouldn't call these people liberal. But on the other hand, these people are trying to portray themselves as more liberal than we are, and they're doing just as bad as shit as the conservatives are. You know what I mean?
Good old shoe horse theory, right there.
The horseshoe is just completely the horseshoe is completely circled now.
except we're not even talking about the same directions. Conservatism and democracy are opposite sides, and then liberal and authoritarian are up and down.
That
Do you
too.
know, by the way, what's the best kicker here? Recently, some feminists started claiming that being straight choice to be straight, and when you make the choice to be straight, you choose to oppress women.
Oh yeah, I read that.
I've heard that before.
Yes.
I've heard that before, and let me say, the feminists who believe that shit, my middle finger. I have a license to use this. It's called freedom of speech.
Come on, obviously you can be right, you gender infiltrator.
But here's the thing, right? They tell me they're making all this criteria now. They're moving the goalpost on the subject here, and that's kind of what they're doing with the situation I'm talking about. Now they're kind of wanting to make this guy look bad. The Saudi guy who I think he's either gay or bi. I've not heard what he is. He's definitely LGBT.
Well,
It doesn't matter to the Arabs.
It doesn't matter to the Arabs. All of them are considered infidels and they should be killed. So this is a major threat to this guy. And the fact that people are low-key trying to say he deserved it, I don't care what you call yourself. That's just shitty.
That's fascism, that is.
Actually, it's fascism. I had an argument with my girlfriend. It wasn't really an argument. It was kind of a hypothetical one, though. Here's what it was. What is the difference between communism and fascism? And I told her the name. They're both the same authoritarian bullshit, and I'm tired of it.
Well, the main difference is the colors they wear.
Yeah, that too.
The fact that with fascism you still have, personal property.
I don't know about that in Nazi Germany though. At one point,
that was the main factor there was whether or not you are Jewish.
Yeah.
That's true.
Oh, generally not German.
But yeah, this pissed me off, and when I heard of it, the thing is though, not a lot of people are talking about it, and I think this is something that needs to be said, that regardless of what you call yourself, you have to condemn this activity. Not just the doxing, right, but the low-key implication that this is what the guy deserves because he drew some goddamn art that you didn't like. You don't like the guy's art? Fine. Look elsewhere.
Mm-hmm. Probably shouldn't have left this till the end of the show. Nobody who watches is going to still be watching.
I completely agree with you there, Panboy. I don't think we should call these people leftists because they aren't. But they keep calling themselves that, and they're polluting this.
No, I'm pretty sure they are leftists. Communism is on the left.
The media is on their side.
That's the most frustrating part of it all. I mean, there was a time when I aligned myself with the center left because they seem to have their shit together. Like, obviously you should have private property and whatnot, but freedom of speech, personal responsibility, all that, we should have that. And they all seem to have shifted away from that.
Unfortunately, center left these days is firmly in the middle of Venezuela.
Speaking of Venezuela, yeah, they're still fucked. I recently was on my favorite economic sites, and they mentioned okay, so all the economies are growing, except for Venezuela, which is minus 13%. I was like, holy shit! Okay, what the fuck are you doing?
That's not true.
Oh.
There have been reports that they found an entire kernel of corn.
Oh, an entire kernel of corn?
Yes.
I can I'm not gonna be able to scrape it out of my ass, but pretty close.
That's like economic increase of 30%.
At that rate, yes. But yeah, Venezuela is really fucked up right about now. It's also funny how everyone who brought up Venezuela as like the beacon of socialism is now suspiciously quiet about it.
That's because it was in the real socialism matrix.
Oh no, because it's not socialism once it fails.
Oh yeah, of course. Now it's
here's the thing. No, we actually do live in fairly socialist countries, and it does pretty well here. But that's when there's a healthy mix of socialism and capitalism that go together.
It's called social democracy.
Yeah, pretty much. Okay, we have social safety nets, we have socialized healthcare, we have socialized education, but corporations are still free to actually, do business. And they're not taken over by the government and forced to sell work for nothing, and then all the staff leave.
Yeah, it's like you just pay taxes and you're gonna be alright.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not exactly sure what happened in Venezuela, but did the government take over a lot of the industry?
Yep.
Yeah, I
Pretty
thought.
much.
I mean, the economy of Venezuela can not exactly be compared to the situation in Europe, in the sense that basically the entire economy was centrally planned, whereas in Europe, while we have like some very extensive social programs, I mean, these programs are often referred to as like Scandinavian socialism,
Yep.
which is, you know, we even.
Oh, Artrix, let me tell you something. Central planning was one of the features of Soviet Union.
Yes.
And it was so amazing that sometimes you didn't have stuff like toilet paper or bananas.
But you had a lot of tanks.
We had a lot of tanks, that's true.
But
What I would call the EU, just while it's on my mind, is it's a socialist, it's a democratic socialist capitalist hybrid.
I
It
don't
kinda
know
has
about the
features of-
democratic path.
Yeah,
But the democratic part is starting to be withered away more and more, and that scares me.
Yeah, but that's
And,
because
you
there's,
know,
there's a little country in the middle of Europe called German. I think it's German. They seem to want to change the local, individual governance to some kind of centralized, small, little totalitarian government right in the middle, controlled.
Right, so they're trying to turn. Are you saying that they're trying to turn back into Nazi Germany?
I think what I would describe it as is an empire of sorts. If I was to use the German word, it might be Reich, I think, and it would be what.
Do you have a license for that opinion?
I think technically it would be what the fourth great empire.
Reich
Oh,
4.0.
certain countries in Europe, especially in like the center to east, that have been included in the Soviet Union,
Mm-hmm.
and at some part in the Greater Germans. There have been certain, let's say features of European Union that are surprisingly, suspiciously reminiscent of something that was here before, like central planning, rules and regulations that go over to individual states.
Yeah.
It's just, I'm not saying that it's the same thing, I'm just saying that it's suspiciously familiar to us Slavs.
I think something happened in the Americas as well at one point when half the country wanted it and the other half didn't, and it was. I think there was a couple of major things. There was they wanted a centralized government, but half the country didn't. But also that half of the country also didn't actually wanted to keep slaves. So
Yeah. I'm just saying that every time we had centralized government and orders from other states that we had to listen to, it wasn't the time when we were a free country.
I think the Americans came to some kind of compromise where they decided they could have both a central government and separate country governments, which.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's what EU is aiming for, except they are not.
No, what EU has now is multiple individual state governments and a central advisory council. Yes,
that just shits on them all.
advisory council, but they're trying to change it into a central government and fuck state governments.
Yeah, the biggest weakness of the EU right now is that it doesn't tax its citizenry directly.
The biggest weakness of the EU is the EU itself.
That too. But yeah, in order to truly be a central government, it needs to be able to tax the citizenry directly, and right now it can't.
And
So
it never will.
So it is completely it's completely in the mercy of its member states to actually pony up the funds that they arbitrarily set. unfortunately for everyone else, the governments of Europe seem to be fairly eager to comply. So, like
if you get free money, right? Except it's turning around because there are new countries coming into EU, and now the old new countries are not getting that much money, and they're like, well, if we don't get money, why should we stay in here?
So yeah, our current prime minister is trying real hard to become the next big guy in the EU. Like well, no, he's not gonna do it for me. He's going to do it entirely
for EU.
Look, he is the leader of the Conservative Party, even though it doesn't act like a Conservative Party at all. Oh yeah, by the way, the Rotterdam City Council, even though oh my god, the Populist Party, they got the most votes. Like they're by far
fuckers who care about people.
Yes. So you know what they did? All the mainstream parties. So there's actually a small win in this as well, but all the large parties, they all got together and formed like a monster coalition. I think
that's what you do.
So,
Artrix in democracy, when somebody wins,
so
you just get all your friends and mug him.
So basically, amongst others, we got the most leftist party you can imagine, forming coalition with the mainstream right-wing party. They couldn't be further apart than that. And yet they negotiated a coalition just to keep the Populist Party out.
Yeah.
I mean, technically...
That kind of reminds me of what happened here, like a party one. It's a very medium, middle of the way party. Basically, its main feature is that we are a party. And also you get a free donut if you can vote us. Which apparently worked. And they won. Except they didn't want a majority, so they were left to put together a government. And it seems that the options that were considered were both like the rightist party that got into parliament and the communists. And now they are at the third attempt of putting the government together.
But the thing is, whenever this happens, like whenever you get these coalition governments made up of a bunch of parties that hate each other, nothing gets done because there's so much infighting.
Obviously, the people who voted the middle of the way party don't like the right side party because that one is like immigrants are evil, go away, we don't want you here. Also, the leader of that party is half Japanese, which is just the best thing ever. I mean, look. You might give a case that he's an immigrant, indeed, but you know he's got the Japanese heritage in him, all that xenophobia. Anyway, and everybody fucking hates communists, so that coalition wouldn't work.
Well, that's certainly one of the pros of living in a country that has actually lived through communism.
Exactly.
At least
we see that communists are retarded, and then what EU is doing is also. Oh my god, Artrix, there's an amazing parallel there with communism and EU. You know, in communism, everyone was like, yes, a good worker is this, and this is what good worker does. And that's good work. And everything else is some sort of Western spy and an insurgent, divergent person. Well, and EU is basically like, yes, all Europeans are inclusive, all Europeans are tolerant. This is what it means to be European. Fucking no! We have Poland. We hate fucking Poland right above us. They are Slavs. They hate us.
Oh god. Well,
European Union is a bunch of countries, half of which are in it for the money, and they are not getting the money anyway because it's a pyramid scheme. Literally, like, they always come in with new countries, give them some money, and they're like, yes, now you pay us. And then they have to get some new countries, because the old countries were like, well, but they like the money they are getting.
And just keeps on going forever until the entire world is European.
Until you get Greece.
Yeah,
Greece is like, well, we never had the money, actually.
We kind of pretended to have money, and...
Yes. Then you have Germany just buying pieces of Greece in bulk. Which is
speaking
Like, that's a pretty scary thing. That could be you. It could be your country. You just get bankrupted and suddenly there's Germans all over you, or worse, Arabs.
Speaking of which, apparently Greece's debt situation, I mean, for one thing, the economy seems to be recovering somewhat, but I think there was also been like a big deal going on where a large portion of Greece's debt has been cancelled. They're like, oh yeah, all this debt, you don't have it anymore. But
so what are they trying to do? Are they trying to invoke the Catalonia scenario?
No.
It's like our GDP is exactly 0. That's 20% better than the rest of the country. We want out.
Look. The Catalonia actually has a functioning economy. Greece is like they have olives and that's it.
I mean, Alex, it could be argued that in Greece, a economy that's exactly on 0 is functional.
Though Greece is dealing with legitimate fascists trying to take over the country. But gee whiz, I wonder what could have caused that.
I mean, we had some festivals here too, but everybody was like, "No, you are retarded."
I mean, we're not going to.
So that party, that actually everybody's like, "Oh no, they are right wingers. They don't like migrants." They're just like, "All right."
So everyone's like, "Yeah, we know we don't like commies, but don't become retarded doing so, okay? Now you just swing all the way the other way around."
Exactly.
And that's how I often feel about this whole ordeal. I'm not interested in an ethno-state, but I'm not exactly pleased with the way things are going, where we're basically trying to restructure our entire civilization to basically regress to worse times. I mean, we made all this progress. Let's actually stick to it, for fuck's sake.
No, Artrix, that's not European.
It is. They just don't realize.
And like, what is European? That was never European.
Mm-hmm. That
doesn't exist.
They sure as hell tried to tell us that. That's true. Oh yeah, everything you know about Europe, that was never the case. Europe was
actually, you are all the same.
Europe was always like this super multicultural melting pot of everything. It's always been this way, all the way back to...
It was, but everyone was white.
Except for those few centuries that we were full of what was it? The Huns. They're like, yeah, mind you, if we stop by for a few centuries, kill and murder people, and rape a few women. Actually, that was, you know, the fun part about Huns in Europe was that all those offspring of those rapes was the downfall, because they were like, well, okay, we are not Mongolian and we are not white either. Fuck it. They started warring with the Huns, and they managed to drive them out.
But yeah, the blatant rewriting of history is disturbing, to say at least.
So what are you saying is there were no black people in the Middle Ages?
Well, they existed, but not, you know, it wasn't quite like it is now.
Yes, I mean, do you think people would get much offended if somebody really wanted to make an accurate depiction of medieval and put a black person in chains?
Look, it's very similar to, for instance, if I decide to move to Japan and they actually want me there for some reason, because we have to keep in mind Japan is relatively xenophobic when it comes to immigration. Like if you want the xenophobia, go to fucking Japan.
Yes, so that's what I mentioned about that guy from one of our parties who's half Japanese, yes, and they consider him far right.
Yes. So
it's his heritage, fucking.
So imagine that I move to Japan. I live amongst the Japanese and all that. I don't think I'm gonna be, offended if they tell their children, look, Japan's always been completely Japanese. Because yes, obviously it's Japanese. I'm in Japan.
I mean, yes, indeed.
Even though I live here now. Maybe even, you know, maybe even have like a Japanese girlfriend. I don't really care if they're gonna be like, yeah, in the past there were only Japanese people here, and then at some point Europeans arrived, but you know, we stayed mostly Japanese, and now we have got a bunch of Europeans living here.
To be fair, to Japan women, you'd be exotic. I mean, you are as tall as two Japanese men.
Yes.
On top of each other.
I bet they'd be interested in hanging out just for the height difference.
But yes, Japan is the best example of this because most of their history is spent sitting on an island and throwing rocks at anybody who would try to get in here.
I mean,
then Europeans invented iron boats, and the Japanese didn't know what to do anymore.
That's true. The rocks couldn't get through that.
the rocks aren't killing the boats anymore. At best, they make a few dents, which probably makes them even faster.
I mean, it's logical, right? They are made of iron, so if you throw iron projectiles at them, you just add the iron.
Yes, exactly. So they're like, throw rocks at the boats. And so they would throw rocks at the boats, and somehow they made the boats more aerodynamic. So they go faster. Also, there's more boat in them now, even if it's like minuscule amounts.
It is really bizarre that Japan didn't really trade with the rest of the world until like the Industrial Revolution had started.
Yeah, in that context, Japan had a very odd history. A very long period of isolation, and then just suddenly, oh, we're in Western country now. That they just literally decide, okay, within a decade we're gonna be completely Westernized, and they just did like this, and they just became a Western country.
I think it might have something to do with the fact that all their nobles were still using swords, and then somebody was like, well, we have guns, maybe we should shoot them all, and they did.
Yeah, Japan was probably one of the few places where, you know, you had samurai walking around being all traditional with their samurai swords, which are basically shit, and just modern day looking military men just using standard issue rifles and shit. Like, oh yeah, we're the samurai, we samurai'd for centuries. Well, we just adopted Western military tactics, and
the samurai do for centuries.
This one gun can take out an entire army of samurai. Let me demonstrate. Oh wait, your entire samurai clan has been deleted.
Artrix, that's pretty much what happened when the samurai did a revolt against the government.
And it wasn't the evil Westerners. It was the Japanese government just adopting Western technology.
Yeah, I don't remember what exactly they did, but the samurai were like, well, that's not traditional, we don't like it. Stop it. And the government was like, no. And then the samurai went to a castle and made a revolt. Except, you know, they had swords. Actually, it was kind of fun. Like, they charged at the army. And the army had only gun training, so you had a bunch of guys charging at you with a two-handed sword, and what the fuck are you going to do?
Well, unless you're
because you were not trained to actually fight up close. So yeah, the first charge was successful, but then they were like, well, guns are ranged, right? So they shot at them from a distance, and yeah, that didn't end up very well.
Unless you're Genji, then you can just reflect all the bullets.
Actually, the one of the reasons given for the army not shooting at them so much is that lots of those nobles were old at the time, and the soldiers just didn't want to shoot at these old guys on horses.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually a common story in basically every war up until recently.
Yep.
Like in World War I and II, people didn't want to shoot enemies. It was like, I have a machine gun, this will immediately kill that man. I don't want to do that.
That is a very common feature.
Like, that doesn't seem very fair.
And then comes American modern military training, where they teach you, don't think, just run in the room and shoot everyone.
Yep.
Yeah, it's like murder and dismember first, ask questions at the debriefing.
It is a very core component of American military training to basically dehumanize the enemy to the point where there's like not even there's not even a hint of a second thought before you pull the trigger.
Indeed, you look
You're-
at him as the threat, the enemy, and that's it.
That's where the whole concept of the pop-up target range comes from. It's like you just run into the room, the pop-up targets come, you shoot it before you can even think about it.
Yes. And it kind of goes both ways because, you know, your immediate thought is, oh my god, it's so dehumanizing and whatnot. Which it is. But you also have to...
Yeah.
But yeah, the flip side is if you're in the military and you're starting to, you know, second guess whether you want to kill a guy or not, it is very likely going to kill you.
And that's also why they don't really, you know how in games and sometimes they have those pop-up trap targets that are not an active combatant. They probably don't have them in actual training. It's like, oh,
You have an old joke about the Vietnam War.
All right. What is it?
Before a raid, the sergeant tells his squad, remember, the communist. And they ask him, and how do we know who is a communist? Who ran away? Those are the communists. Who are then those who don't run away? Those are brave communists.
Because, yes, the Viet Cong were pretty brutal. Like, they were actually pretty good at not being conquered and actually
Well, the problem
fighting.
with Vietcong was that you didn't see them running. They just
That's
felt
it.
like there's a guy in the bush. Oh, there's no guy in the bush. anymore.
And you're dead now.
Also, you are dead indeed. Well, no, you are dead when you go into the bush because there's 2 meter deep hole with spikes covered with shit.
it's kind of funny as well now because those kind of guerrilla tactics really don't work anymore now that everyone has night vision scopes and infrared. It's like, oh, look at those people. Okay, like imagine, you know, you're in the Vietnamese jungle, it's really dark, you don't know what's going on, and then everyone around you just gets shot. That's how it went.
Yep.
When you were attacked. But now you have a GoPro hooked up that's turning on a little swivel and it's got a camera on it, or like it's hooked up to a monitor, and you can see all the heat around you. And it's like, oh look, there's 5 Viet Cong over there with 2 machine guns. I can tell they have machine guns because that part of the image is black. And then you shoot them with a grenade. And then they're not there anymore. And they couldn't see you because they didn't have enough equipment.
Yes. Also, with heat signatures, you probably could be able to spot the tunnel entrances.
That too.
Also,
So, yeah.
I think I got a good closing section for this episode. I'll make it slightly longer since there wasn't
Okay,
one.
good. Play
last week.
Vietcong and
No,
play
because
the first one.
Uh,
It is
uh,
the tunnels.
eight-
They're terrible.
speaking of tunnels, so last week something quite extraordinary happened. Something that hasn't happened for a long time. Because a US president met up with the big guy leader person of the best Korea.
Yes, this is true. And it was terrible.
So yeah, what one side of the spectrum was like, see, our president can achieve amazing things. Like, who imagined the fucking president of the United States meeting up with the leader of Best Korea? And then there's...
I think that could happen, but imagine a politician actually trying to fulfill his campaign promise.
Well, wait a minute. Was meeting up with Kim Jong-un a campaign?
Well, not
campaign
explicitly, but Trump was like, yeah, I'm gonna try and get them to stop being nuclear.
Ah, okay. Yeah, that's definitely something he promised.
He's promised a lot of things. He still
Yes.
hasn't built that wall. I'm very sad.
Don't worry, he's working on it. Also, there was this whole ordeal about the people breaking the law are being detained. And
Right. Since we mentioned the Korea,
yes,
there was a terrible incident that proved that Trump is literally Hitler, and weak Hitler at that, because he saluted the Korean general.
And
Obviously, that means he's showing submission. He wants to be the bottom bitch for the general.
no, that's common practice.
Well, you know what actually happened? Trump came to the general and offered him a hand, and the general saluted. So Trump was like, "Oh, okay, he wants to do this," and saluted him back. And that was it.
He's the commander-in-chief. Of course he salutes people.
Also, that's another good level. He's a leader of USAN army, so he can do that actually.
Yes.
I mean, especially when the general saluted first. That's just a good etiquette.
The
Because imagine if he didn't salute him back, then the media would bone out how disrespectful he is.
Yeah,
right?
so there's no winning this.
One point here, regardless of what he would have done, at any point, the media would still chew him up for it.
Exactly.
Because the media is freaking owned. Owned by people who didn't get the first elected.
Oh, you're channeling Elon Musk right now. Who do you think owns the media?
Hmm.
Oh, and by the way,
The Muslims? What?
By the way, ...
Elon Musk on it.
Ah.
Yes. Musk is like he had a spat on Twitter with some journalists and other people, and one guy was like something about along the lines of, what do you think is better for the people in power, if media keeps revealing their flaws, or if they just go with what the people in power are saying? Meaning it, as in that Trump is trying to convince media, right? And the media are brave for going against Trump. And Musk is like, hello, who do you think owns the media?
Big
Thereby
corporates.
subverting the argument of the journalist the other way around. That, yes, that might be true, but the people who own the media, you know, that they're like the force that's subverting is not coming from Trump's side. And then obviously journalist is like, oh my god, he meant Jews.
Well, it's got to be
Pretty
racist.
damn stupid considering that Trump loves Jews.
What? We're talking about Elon Musk.
Donald
Yes.
Trump loves Jews. He even gave them Israel.
Yeah, he
As
just
you do.
Didn't his son convert to Jewishness or something? I don't know.
he just gift wrapped it and gave it to them, like, here.
Here's Israel.
Here's a Israel. Like, he's got a few in stock. You can just, you have one.
When can we just get the ending of Fallout or Far Cry?
Oh, by the way, if you ever paid attention during Gamergate, there was a site, I don't know if it's still working, Deep Freeze, that basically was like a nice repository of journalists, and you could click on the journalist and find out if the journalist
I'm pretty
is
sure it's still out there.
involved in any scandal or something. Well, apparently Elon Musk wants to do the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they don't like him suddenly.
Deepfreeze.it still exists, and its featured article is about some dude working for Destructoid.
Well, in any case, Musk has a site, he bought the domain Pravda, which Pravda actually means in many Slavic languages truth, which is a nice bilingual bonus.
Mm-hmm. Oh, well, Deep Freeze hasn't been updated in a year, so
I guess they got on board with it.
it's an archive.
Yep. So eventually just run out of things to archive.
Well, it's useful.
Well, it's still around. That's a good thing.
And I'm sure someone will probably put all the articles into a big old zip file somewhere and dump it on the internet eventually. As a regular archive. Because someone has to pay for that hosting.
Yes.
And they're going to get bored of doing so eventually. I remember years ago I found a website that just listed ghost websites. Just websites that are still being paid for, they're still up, but haven't been updated in a decade.
So you mean Maddox's site, for example?
Yeah.
Freaky flickers.
I don't actually know how that trial that he was trying to do ended. You
I
know,
think he lost, actually.
Oh,
I
mean,
wouldn't be
if you
surprised.
if you sue your friends for 3 million because you get butthurt, yeah, maybe you are not going to win that one.
Oh,
But
yeah.
but yeah, in short, Trump meets up with best Correa.
And he's respectful, so the negotiations are going along swimmingly, and nobody's getting offended, and everything goes according to the plan, and everybody's friendly. And the media are like, you are evil.
I mean, in the large scheme of things, I think this is pretty much on par of the course for Korea, because the cycle's basically this. So you're North Korea, and you're the leader of best Korea, and you want to stay in power. But the only way to stay in power is to keep, keeping all your neighbors occupied and keep your citizenry like perpetually in fear. So what you do is, first you have like a temper tantrum. So you're like, I'm going to blow everything up. You'll see.
Then China stops giving you stuff. And I go, well, fuck! China was the only state that actually traded with us.
Yeah.
But
So then when everyone is pissed off with you, you're like,
I'm probably North Korea is actually very rich on various
resources. Yes. So,
yes, indeed.
So basically, that's the states where we're at now, where Kim
he needs somebody to sell it to.
Kim Jong-un is now like, oh, you know what? I won't be a mean boy if you give me free shit and we'll get along. And
it's not necessarily free. I mean, if you trade the resources for it.
Mm-hmm. So, but yeah, he basically wants the rest of the world to back off a little bit in exchange for, well, resources. That
by the way, also I don't know how accurate that is, but I heard that one of his bomb tests actually fell on us.
Probably.
He managed to blow up a part of his own city.
But yeah, chances are a few years down the line, when things normalize a little bit, he'll pull a stunt again. He's going to introduce new, nuclear tests and whatnot, and the cycle repeats. Though with this recent with Trump in power, things might actually change a little bit, because so far the foreign policy of the US has been like, diplomacy and sanctions. They'll help, but no, it's just it turns out it's just a big calculated.
See how evil Trump is. He's so evil. He just wastes all these bajillions on the army budget and doesn't even use the army. What a wasteful man, Artrix.
But we also don't want war, right?
But then all the money on the army goes out the window.
Yes.
I mean, how well did it go in the past when America overthrew foreign governments?
That's the thing. The U.S. government, the U.S. Army is not at all equipped for long-term occupation. It's a conquest army, so it's very good at basically fucking shit up. But
they do a spearhead and blow everything up.
But it's not at all equipped for occupying a foreign entity for a long time.
Exactly, because the tanks are not very well equipped against a guy dressed in a towel who's just loaded with bombs, and he's like, hey, that's a nice tank, boom.
Well, in a more general term, that could be construed as it's very bad at dealing with guerrilla warfare. They're dealt with a similar thing in like South America, where they basically try to just install new governments that were pro-America.
It's very similar to Vietnam. You can shoot what you can see.
Exactly. They had to deal with that kind of thing too, and they weren't very good at it. So they lost.
Whereas Russia just carpet bombs everything and is done with it.
No, let's not pretend Russia's perfect. I mean, they tried to fight a war in Afghanistan. It's essentially the Soviet Union's version of the Iraq War or Vietnam, where they were like, oh, we're just gonna spread communism in this here Afghanistan. And Afghanistan was
Communism
like,
is good, Artrix.
but Afghanistan was like, no, fuck off.
Artrix, would you stop communism for spreading? This time it might actually be real communism.
Well, that's not how Afghanistan was thinking about it.
That's not how a communism works.
Also,
they knew something's up.
Also, the weird thing about the Cold War is that the Arab world didn't really seem to have an answer to it. Like, yet this whole Cold War thing going on in the Arab world was like, yeah, we don't really like capitalism, but we also don't like communism.
They have no answer to cold.
But we also don't like communism. We want
Islam.
We want something else. No, not specifically Islam. Actually, I would argue that Islam is probably one of the most capitalist systems out there.
You are right. It allows you to own almost everything.
Exactly.
Including people.
Exactly. I mean, modern capitalism can probably be traced back. I mean, the Arab world was one of the biggest economic powers of the ancient times. So, yeah. I mean, it was basically on par with the Roman Empire.
It was the powerhouse of a cell. Like.
Anyway, we've been recording for well over 2 hours. I'm going to put a stop to this episode.
You are going to do this. You are going to split it in half, and the next week we are not making an episode. We are just broadcasting the second half.
No, I'm not going to do that. That's too much work.
It's a Gucci plan.
So thanks for watching. I hope
yes, good night.
Good night.
Good night, people.
Okay, next bye.